I'm Christian Abbott.
I'm Nathan Lavender.
I'm Sean Abbott, and this is the Red Mist Podcast.
Hello, welcome to the Red Mist Podcast, Season 3, Episode 8. The 2004 Daytona 500 winning Chevy Monte Carlo of Dale Earnhardt Jr. See, that was 20 years ago, and when the NASCAR racing at Daytona was really good, if you ask me.
I mean, it was probably a lot better than what we saw this Sunday, or Monday, yesterday.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah, I mean, yeah, we certainly have a lot to talk about, I'll tell you.
Well, tonight's Daytona 500, but we also got the Bathurst 12 hours, and I got some news and notes on some other stuff that was announced over the week. But yeah.
Yeah, and I saw some of the 12-hour race, and, it's like there must have been a huge rain cloud because it went beyond Daytona as well. So,
yeah.
So we got rain everywhere. We got it all weekend at Daytona, 7 hours at Bathurst. I think that's what the total was. It was at least half of it, but
yeah,
we definitely have a lot of that.
Yeah.
So the 2024 Daytona 500. 24. Speaking of which, does that mean something?
I don't know, man. There was a jet dryer that had an accident on Monday morning. So
I was wondering if you're going to bring that up.
Why not?
You know what it is? It was so weird because like everyone, like in the NASCAR world, was thinking, okay, race on a Monday, 2 jet dryers crashing. This is all 2012 all over again. So it has to mean that the 17 is going to win this race, right? So Chris Buescher. I mean, personally, I wouldn't have been all that disappointed with that. But later on, it didn't prove to be that result.
No, I mean, I wouldn't be upset with Chris Buescher. I got to meet him and race with him one time.
Oh, I forget about that. You and Dakota Armstrong.
Yeah. Yeah,
that's so cool. That's that good old F1 Boston.
I was gonna say that's an infamous F1 Junior League or F1 Boston Junior League story. But yeah.
So
I'm pretty sure he like moved all the kids out of the way if I recall that correctly. So, but is what it is.
The Pro League move, the Sprint League move. Yeah. Oh, where's Sean tonight? Oh my gosh,
I know.
Sean's not with us tonight. He's on assignment.
Yeah.
So maybe next week. I mean, I guess of all the weeks to miss, I guess this was the week he would miss.
I mean, and it's kind of shocking because what else are we going to talk about other than just 5 laps worth of Daytona?
Oh, listen to you. You definitely did not watch the whole thing, did you?
I had it on in the background because there was literally nothing else to watch. So I had it on and I was like half paying attention, but my statement still from last year, from the previous year, and the year before still stands. All you got to do is wait for the last 5 laps, and that's all you need to watch. And sure enough, that's all that you needed to watch this year. And
I mean, there was some pretty good action at the start. I really liked the sunset start. That did look really nice.
Oh no,
for pictures wise. Scenic.
There is other good stuff in the race, but when you have 40 cars?
Yeah.
Okay, when you have 40 cars and then half the field gets taken out with 10 to go, and then they takes them a couple laps to clean it all up. So then it's 5 to go by the end of it, and then they just barely make it across the start-finish line as they're crashing, so then they call it, and then that's the race, Like, I don't know. At that point, why even have the previous what is it? 200 laps, so 195 laps you're doing. So
Right.
it's
But I mean, the action started pretty early, right? I mean, lap 5 going to 6. I mean,
yeah.
uh, my homeboy Brad Keselowski kind of started something.
Uh-huh.
He was bump drafting, wasn't causing a wreck, right? Bump drafting John Hunter Nemechek. Right. In turn, knocked him, loosey goosey, right, into Harrison Burton. Harrison Burton went for a wild ride. He went across the grass with Carson Hocevar, and Harrison Burton came across the track, and I think it was Kaz Grella that T-boned him and knocked the whole front end nearly off, destroyed the Wood Brothers 21 car. But Carson Hocevar, I thought his car looked fine, but he was stuck in the grass, and they ended up towing his car, which I really didn't understand. So obviously it was beyond just getting stuck in the grass, would be my guess.
Yeah, I mean, considering where it happened and the speed that they were going, it actually wasn't as bad as it could be. It could have been, because I mean the grass did slow him up somewhat. But I mean, when you have guys coming towards the tri-oval and then they cut across the grass right back into the racing line, like that could be a recipe for disaster. And thankfully, they didn't really destroy too many cars. It only collected one or two other cars when they came back up.
Right. There was Pasquale, I mentioned. Austin Dillon was involved. Let's see. There was
Martin Truex got up in there?
Yeah, Truex was involved. Jimmy Johnson had a little bit of damage, Ryan Preece.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was from there. It was it was some really good pit strategy going on throughout the race. There was green flag pit stops, which was very nice. I was worried it was going to be a caution fest after that, because to have it wreck that early is. I can only remember one time that there was a big one in a couple of years ago on lap 2, and that's just never a good start.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I mean, fair enough to them. They went green for another 180 laps, right?
Yeah, I would say that's
something like that.
Right ballpark. It's just the stages got in the way, which I mean that's a whole nother conversation. But
yeah, it would have been really. Without the stages, I mean, not to dive into that whole situation, but I mean, without the stages, it would have been really interesting to see how strategy would have worked out for that race, considering the race did go green for that long. So,
right, and those were the only other cautions, and then you get to the final stage. Okay, we had a few stage winners, right? Ryan Blaney made a pretty good move on Austin Cindric. To win the stage, and then Chase Elliott. I think it was Chase Elliott that won stage 1.
Yep.
Yeah, he did. Okay, so yeah, it was Chase Elliott, Ryan Blaney. Funny enough, both did get help from their teammates, but also kind of went against their teammates, trying to see what moves they could do. Mm-hmm. So it was kind of interesting to see how that was all working out. Kind of was. I was thinking it was going to be a prologue to what the finish could be, and so fast forward to the last stage, we get to it starts to show that the pressure cooker is getting hotter and hotter and hotter. The pressure's on, right, and so people are starting to make some serious aggressive moves and pushes and.
Yeah, I mean, at one point it was like lap 180. They were 3 wide. I don't know, 7 rows deep, something like that. And
yeah.
And to be fair, they were doing that for the next 10 laps. And right before the big one happened, I was sitting there. I was like, if they pull it off and go to the finish all green, that would be impressive in itself.
I agree. And you start to think, okay, like, where's the run going to go? Mm-hmm. Where's the run going to come from? And I was thinking, because there were doing pit stops, I think, with like 20 or 30 to go. It was pretty late on their pit stops. And I would even mention that I wasn't sure if it was like, because there was the Fords working together. It was Penske and RFK and of like Frank Kozlowski and David Reagan, but David Reagan and I don't know where Chris Buescher was. He wasn't really anywhere in the front really at all. He was like, 15th back a lot of the race. So I don't know what was going on there. But it was funny because well, not funny, but Michael McDowell had some electrical issues, and so he was falling like a rock. I think he ended up at one point being 5 laps down and just was out of it as a whole. But Todd Gilliland showed up at the end, leading some laps, and then with 8 laps to go, Christian, everyone that predicted everything, right? The big one, it happened. So,
oh yeah, it happened, all right. And Nate, who was it? Was the first car that was turned straight to the wall?
Christian. Brad Keselowski.
Yeah. When I saw that,
I threw my hands up in the air.
Yeah.
I was just like, you gotta be joking.
I was gonna say, I think immediately when that happened, I was there sitting texting you.
I was just like, I was just every replay I looked at it, it was just like, you got to be kidding me. You've got to be freaking kidding. And then so Alex Bowman was giving a really aggressive push to William Byron, but my whole thing is like, you can give those pushes, but like, where are you gonna go in like some of those cases? Like, I get it's crunch time, but I kind of, because I think there was a moment, there was one car that went down in front of Byron. Oh, no.
Stenhouse?
No. It was Ross Chastain. He had the lead, and Keselowski had a run and was going to use it, and then Chastain went for the block. And in that same instance, there's just Alex Bowman and William Byron. Bowman is pushing William Byron, and so he got a wiggle, and he had nowhere to go, so in that turned Keselowski and got into Logano, and beyond that, I really felt for Ryan Blaney, because he's surprisingly enough the only person at Penske that does not have a win at the Daytona 500, and has just been snake bit every year, like that close. Like, seriously, the last 3 or 4 years he's been in it, he's either finished second or has been like out of it within the last 10 laps with a fighting chance. And there was even when Kurt Busch won the 500 when he was at the Wood Brothers, he almost won. Made an amazing move going from the top lane to the low lane with a huge run. I thought he was going to steal the 500 that day, but that just didn't happen. It was Kurt Busch's day. But this was a turning point in the race. Took a lot of contenders out, and then we get to the final restart, because they red flagged the race for a lengthy amount of time. And they went, I want to say 5 to go. They went green.
Yeah.
Something like that. And I'm NASCAR fan here. I'm anticipating something to happen, such as like someone gets spun, a yellow, or whatever. Like, I'm expecting green, white, checkered. We're kind of getting there, and then we're getting the white. Now, I'm not in the cockpit or anything, but where was Ross Chastain going to go? He knows that there's a car inside, right?
At that point,
he turned himself.
I mean,
he turned himself down the inside. I get that, his whole thing is he's, not gonna he's not gonna go to sleep knowing that he didn't try, right? He's gonna go to sleep knowing that he did try to go for the win. But I almost look at it as maybe it could have gone high because the thing is the lanes were starting to close up even before that was happening.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I'm not in the cockpit, but I'm just kind of like looking at it as third person. Maybe that could have been his best move to go to the high side where it looked like there was at least a whole lane for him to go up and maybe carry that momentum on the high side and do something there.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So, and then deciding to finish. Now, I wasn't sure by this. I kind of, the coverage was a little like vague with it, I want to say, because they were showing that once you got to the start finish line, that was the deciding part of the winner. That's what I was led to believe. And the caution didn't come out until later on. I thought it would be Alex Bowman that would it be taking the win. I thought it was for sure Alex Bowman based on the views I was seeing. And then to my surprise, they said William Byron. And I was like, oh, okay. Based on what I've seen, I thought it was Bowman. But I mean, the cool part is William Byron brought the 24 to victory lane again. I mean, nearly 19 years ago, Jeff Gordon won the Daytona 500 in the 24, and he adds to that legacy. And even a cooler story is he goes from the sim racing rig, right, to becoming a Daytona 500 champion, which is an unusual background. Normally you hear it from like go-karts or lower forms of stock car racing, such as late models or something of that nature. And it's a new era of drivers going up through the ranks. I think NASCAR could have thrown the yellow before the start finish line to have a green white checker. That's just my real stink. It really. I'm trying to be nice. It's not. I don't think it was the best call. NASCAR was super lazy on it, and just I think wanted to get it over with.
Yeah, I mean, they did have the Xfinity race that they had to run afterwards too because there was rain in the morning, so that had to get postponed and pushed off. But
you had the ARCA race at 10:30 p.m. The other day, which I mean, there you go. You finished that race at that time. You had lights, just whatever. You got the biggest race of the year, and you're gonna just kind of cut it short and give us blue balls. I'm not for that.
I get it, but if because of where the crash happened, and you can argue the crash happened either before they crossed the start finish line or after the start finish line, but like because it was so close, it's a toss up of what they're gonna do. So, but because if you went to that replay, whatever, and it showed that the field had crossed the start finish line, and then the yellow came out, then the race is over at that point because you're on the last lap. You don't have a chance to sit there and say, well, we're not on that lap, so we can do a green white checkered. But I don't. As much as I want to sit here and say that one decision over the other is going to be a better finish for the race, plate racing I don't enjoy. And this form,
you don't have to tell me twice.
Yeah,
I know that
this
about
is just
you, Sean. Right?
Yeah.
But I'll tell you, if you're gonna have like Austin Cindric and Ross Chastain are really sideways well before the start finish line. I can't believe the call. For me, watching these races for 21 years, I personally just can't believe the call. Because I mean, you have all these different Daytona 500s that finish under green white checkered. I've grown to it's a love-hate relationship. Believe me, there's some green white checkers that are just loads of BS. But then it's like on the flip side of the coin, if you do it this way, then what's the point in even having them?
I mean,
is my other argument.
Yeah, I've never been a fan of them, so because to me it doesn't become the 500 race, it becomes 500 plus miles, and that's if you're gonna advertise a race being a distance race, then finish it on that distance. So on that hand, I'm glad it finished that way, but at the same point, or at the same time, like I get why people would want a better finish to what was kind of lackluster. But
right.
With all of this,
racing, I hear you.
Racing is racing, and not every finish can be exciting, because if every finish was exciting, then you wouldn't have the standout finishes that are exciting for exactly those reasons. So
now, do we call this the Daytona 497.5?
No, because they went 500 miles, they went around one more time, and they crossed the start-finish line.
Okay.
It wasn't range shortened or anything like that. Like
which is nice. Yeah.
They completed the distance. I know that there's been 500s in the past where it's been cut short because of rain and whatnot. So like at least it wasn't, you weren't lost out on that. But I mean, you can't control the weather, and when stuff like this happens, you just have to act in the best interest of what you think went on, and that's it. So
right. Yeah. Well, congrats to William Byron, Hendrick Motorsports, and there is a cool part to see the 24 back in victory lane like that at Daytona. And I got to tell you, I do like the paint scheme this year. The white with the red flames and the yellow 24. Mm-hmm. There is something nostalgic about that. I like the new idea of the flames. I think they should have just kept the flames, and they brought that back this year, which is awesome. So, love the paint scheme, and car will look good at Daytona USA for the whole year until next time. So,
yeah.
So I'm it is what it is at the finish, but I'll tell you, looking at the positives, new Daytona 500 winner, classic number returns to victory lane at Daytona, and let's see, on to Atlanta. Of all tracks, they go to another super speedway after, which I'm like, okay.
Well, Nate, hold on. Before we get to Atlanta, we also got to talk about your racing adventures.
Oh boy,
this weekend.
Yeah,
okay?
yeah.
Because you did your own 500-mile race of your own in somewhat William Byron-esque nature of on the sim, and you came out on top.
Yes, yeah. I get my what is it? My invisible Daytona 500 ring, or virtual Daytona 500 ring.
Yeah.
But this was I'll tell you, this is the one I really had circled of all the, like, I go on iRacing. I love the special events. Those are some of my favorite things to do. And the Daytona 500 was just always the one that's like circled for me, because personally, I love the Daytona 500. It's personally, I would even say my favorite of all the races to watch, just because it's so nostalgic to me, and it is the first race I've ever watched. In 2003, I watched it, and the cool part of it is my car number was 15. And so the first Daytona 500, or first ever race I watched, was the 2003 Daytona 500. And the winner of that race, Michael Waltrip, his number was 15 as well. And fun fact about that one, the shortest distance in Daytona 500 history was the 2003 Daytona 500, completing 109 laps. Yikes, yeah. But still, that was, yeah, I know, just past 250 miles.
Yeah.
So, what is it? Yeah, do math, but 109 laps was completed. And for me, the race was pretty pretty cool. I got to lead the high line a lot, led some laps. There was green flag pit stops, which is definitely nice. I like that part. And I did win it in 2 green wet checkers. So call it what you want about green wet checkers. So that's why I call it a love-hate relationship with it. But
wait, so Nate, are you saying you're not the Daytona 500 champion? You're the Daytona 500 plus champion. So who actually won the race then?
oh, of course, I'm going to tell you it's me, but that's just, Yeah. And same thing with iRacing. iRacing can back that up as well. So that's, hey, listen, you know what? I won my favorite race on iRacing finally, and it's official, so.
Yeah.
And so that's it. In the virtual world, I joined AJ Foyt, Mario Andretti, Jeff Gordon, Jimmy McMurray. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you've won both.
Checked
both
out
of the
the Daytona races.
Yep.
Yeah.
Both Daytona races. You got to watch it. What is it? Is it a ring for the 500?
Yeah, right.
Nice.
So,
there you go.
Harley J. Earl. Oh yeah. So cool stuff and beautiful paint scheme to boot. Right. So
yes.
So
we gotta make sure we get
it's kind of funny.
Did you get a screenshot of that? Because I should use that for the post of what this podcast comes out for.
I have a photo,
Okay.
but I'll probably take a few more photos because there's some cool shots with the sunset and whatnot. So, and plus, well, I wonder if because I'm trying to, I might call Lionel Racing tomorrow and see if they can make like a 124 version like of that. So I'd like to have that on the mantle somewhere.
A little die cast of that car.
See, you already know. So I think that would look hot. And look, I'll put Friday night 9 p.m. open. What is it? NASCAR iRacing series, right?
You put whatever on there, yeah.
Yeah. Split 14. No one has to know, right?
No.
But I'll tell you really quick. The top split finish in that Blake McCandless. I think I want to make sure I say that name right. He won his race by 1,000th of a second, and it was a crazy fuel run to the finish. So there's, So that was pretty insane to watch. So, check out the Daytona 500. And I'll tell you what, there's lots of special iRacing events that are out there, but that one's probably the one I had circled most and felt pretty good.
Yeah.
So.
All right.
So Daytona it out.
Pretty much Daytona it out. We got our own. We got one last Daytona after we finish this recording,
right,
but we'll be then we'll officially
what the
be
truck
done.
Are you talking about? Yeah. so all right.
But with this Daytona 500, there was rain. But what also had rain this weekend was down under in Australia with the Bathurst 12 hours. For anyone that doesn't know, the Bathurst 12 hours is a sports car race around Mount Panorama. And the field comprises of GT3 cars, GT4s, and an invitational class, which is a few other cars and makes for people that are down in the area. Overall, that race is absolutely fantastic. The top part of the mountain of that track is probably one of the hardest sections in all of racing, and it's so rewarding when you put a lap together. This weekend, in one of the demo runs before the race even started, there was a unrestricted unrestricted Mercedes GT3, so they just kind of like threw away some of the BOP and regulations that usually come with running in that class, and this car lapped 4 seconds faster than what the record pole time was in one of the previous Bathurst qualifying sessions. And the car sounded incredible. It flew, and they threw DRS on the car, so it was just hilarious watching the wing on the 2 or 3 straightaways that they have just open up and or sit back further down and just see the thing fly down the straightaways. Really cool stuff. You can find the off-car TV shots of it going around, and you can also find the onboard TV shot, onboard camera shots of the car on like all of the Bathurst 12-hour social media accounts, and then even on some of Mercedes social media accounts as well. But that was a cool lap to watch, so go check it out if you haven't seen it. As far as the Bathurst 12-hour race itself went, field was really close together. Couldn't really get much closer than it was. At one point before the rain started coming, there was the top 6 were, I think, no more than 8 seconds apart in total. So just really
Which is nice for like an endurance race like that.
Right. And with that, I think it was second. It was either second to 6th or third to 7th, one of the two. We're all like bumper to bumper for a good stint and a half, which was awesome to see.
Yeah. Well, you know what's cool about this race? I like how it like starts in the early morning.
Yes.
Right. Like, I cannot imagine what it's like to start that dark.
Yeah. So
let alone going up and down like probably one of the hardest circuits
right
that there is in the world.
Yes.
Of course, Nürburgring taking that honors of number 1, but I mean this is a track that requires full commitment.
Yeah, and for context, that unlike some of the other famous 12-hour races, this race starts at 5:50, 5:45 in the morning. So they're in the dark for the first half an hour, 45 minutes, and then the sun rises, and then you're just absolutely blinded by the sun as you're going around the track, which is just a whole nother thing to just be driving around the mountain blind for half the time.
Jeez, yeah. I mean, it's something. It's something to watch. And I liked when, as soon as the sun started coming out, there was, definitely some cool moments to take some pictures. Was Jamie Price there? Was he taking pictures?
I'm not sure.
He's one of my favorite photographers.
Yes.
And I know there were some shots I was seeing of like when the sun was rising and it was like going down where skyline is. There are some great shots over there.
Yeah. Yeah. So.
But anyway,
one of the bigger headlines going into this race was that the Sun Energy 1 Mercedes, driven by Kenny Abul, is it James or Jules going on?
Jules going on.
Going on, and then
because he could win his 4th in a row.
Yes, yeah. So Sun Energy 1 was going for their third Bathurst 12 hours win in a row, and Jules going on was going for his 4th, because he had won the previous 2 with Sun Energy, and then won it the year before, joining them. So that was definitely a cool storyline going into this race. And when it was all said and done, they finished second, and they only finished second by 2 3/4 of a second, or 2.75 seconds. They finished behind the leader, so props to them for that. But they were only outdone by Manthey Motorsport, or is it Motorsports? No. Oh, I'm botching it. But they run
the green Porsche.
Yeah, they
simplest terms for others out there.
Manthey has been running Porsches as far as I can remember for these past few years, and their lineup of Lawrence Vranthor, Matt Campbell, and I don't know his first name, but Guven was their Anthony Guven, maybe.
maybe.
was the lineup. So none of these guys are slouches. Like this pro class was really cool. The other notable name out there that some other people might know is Valentino Rossi was driving on the team WRT team in the BMW, and he was doing fantastic as well. But yeah, like there is no. This race is not short of talent by any means.
No, it's not. But you know what I'm thinking? Like, I know he's like driving a car around there, but can you imagine if he had the opportunity to drive one of those MotoGP bikes around the mountain?
A bike,
I think he'd still do it.
A bike around there, you you gotta be
It'd be really ballsy,
crazy.
But yeah. Well, then again, you have to be crazy to join MotoGP to begin with, right? Some sort of crazy, right? Those guys are insane.
Yeah.
So,
no, the way the race panned out, Nate, like you mentioned, about halfway through the race, it started to rain, and it came across the top of the mountain first, so everyone went up there and kind of had to like tiptoe across, and then some people ducked in to put the wets on, and then there were like one or two brave souls to try and toughen it out and go for another lap. But anyone that stayed out, I think they lost like 40-50 seconds in a lap, because they ended up coming back into the pits right the lap after and pitted, and then there was one accident, but it wasn't a car going into another car. They just aquaplaned and spun it around and couldn't get it going again. And then once that was all cleaned up and they were going to get ready to go back green, the rain had stopped and it was starting to really dry out again. So when the next pit stop sequence rolled around, they all pitted for dries again. And then I don't know, I can't remember if it was a stint later or half a stint later, it started raining again. Same issue. This time everyone came in because it was raining a lot harder than trying to push it on this little front that came in before. And then from there it was heavier rain for, I don't know, 2/3 of the last part of the race. And then when it got to like the last hour and a half, it started to dry up, and there
was one lane. There was one lane. It was like starting to, become a dry line, but the rest of the track was still very much damp. Mm-hmm. And that was starting to be like, when do you put on the dries, right?
Yeah, and I mean the interesting strategy point of the whole race was the Manthey team it seems like they screwed up the drive time for Matt Campbell, because he was by far the quickest guy in the wet, like no question about it. So I completely understand why they kept him in the car a bit longer, to maximize that advantage. But the way the rules are, you can only you can't, for safety reasons for the drivers, so they're not in the car overheating and they get out and they're able to recoup some energy and not suffer from any dehydration or anything like that. Drivers can only be in the car for so long, and then and they can only be in the car for a certain amount of time in one go. So you have a maximum amount of time you can be in the car, and then throughout the whole race, and then a maximum amount of time you can be in the car for each stint that you do. So
Understood.
or no, I'm sorry. I don't think there's a maximum amount of time in total you can be in the car, but there is a minimum amount of time that each driver has to do. That's what it is. So then, towards the end of the race, Manthey was looking off sequence, and not in a good way. But because the track was drying out and there was a switch point to go back from the wets to the dries, that actually saved them because it cut everyone else's pit strategy shorter, which got them back into a favorable strategy
sequence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it kind of, in the interest of seeing a more spectacular finish, more rain would have helped. Just to kind of let that strategy play out, but
there was the invitational car that got stuck on the.
That's right. And there was
that was unbelievable. I thought he was going to get it looped around, and then he just I guess he just was on top of in the middle of the car, and then just the wheels in the back, the rear tires just couldn't go anywhere because they're up in the air.
Yeah.
No! Oh my god!
Yes.
Oh my god.
Yeah. So on top of
it's here we go, the green white checker, right? I mean, sorry, it's not NASCAR anymore. But
no, but on top of
30-something minutes.
Yeah, it was like a 30-minute sprint to the end. But given that it was a level playing field, it was still interesting to watch them all battle one another. I mean, again, Matt Campbell just took off at the start, and he just had a couple second lead throughout over the Sun Energy 1 car for the rest of it. But the Audi that finished right behind the Sun Energy 1 team wasn't far off, or no, was only a second behind them, and then the Porsche Phantom Global was another second and a half behind the Audi of the Washet team. So overall, really good entertainment, and something to just add to the list of races to watch for next year.
Well, and plus you get to watch it on YouTube, so it's not on one of the major TV carriers or anything. So
right, anyone has access to this as long as you have an internet connection.
Right.
Which, assuming if you can listen to this podcast, you have an internet connection.
Yeah. Therefore, you can listen to us. You can watch the 12 hours of Bathurst.
Yeah.
So it's a win-win.
Right.
If you're asking me. So, and what? I guess commercials, depending on if you want to pay for YouTube or not.
I don't think there was any commercials though.
No, not of the coverage, but I mean, I'm just YouTube's idea of advertising. Yeah. So. Right. So, but something to note, I cannot believe I'm bringing this up, but the BMW that had the crash that rode along on the wall.
Oh my god!
There would have been a couple of ex-gamers that would thought that was impressive.
I know. Yeah, there was a few of us I think that were making comments about how he looked like Tony Hawk on a skateboard grinding the rail.
Oh my gosh, like that. Well, it's no wonder the car didn't escape the park. Right.
I mean,
thankfully it didn't.
Yeah.
But that could have been way worse.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the tough part going side by side up and down the mountain, because you kind of set yourself to that, being vulnerable to those kind of crashes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So sucks, but I mean the other BMW kept going, and actually at one point during the final restart, or the final stint to the finish, there was a really good battle for third, and it was really starting to amp up with I think there was 5 cars and 3 different manufacturers.
Yeah.
And the Audi R8 out of that, the Washet R8 was able to sneak through and grab a podium. I think a surprise podium, because I don't think there's really any crazy efforts in any other Audi programs, if I'm correct.
No,
there isn't a lot going on for Audi.
No,
GT3.
No, because they've I don't want to say folded, but I mean they've stopped making production and stopped really giving any support to that, because they've been trying to put their focus on the F1 program. So there are still GT3 Audis that are out there roaming around, but
it's not factory support.
Yeah, there's not a lot of support coming from the factories. At least from our understanding of what we've read of how their program is structured. I'm sure they're willing to assist anyone because I mean they're not going to say no to trying to win a race, but it's not as involved as it was before.
Right. So,
But yeah.
so a cool podium for Audi, I will say.
Mm-hmm.
Because I would even say, I mean, what I would say, the Mercedes and the Porsches were probably the cars to beat all weekend.
Yeah, I mean the Mercedes looked probably the best across all of the teams. And then the Manthey Porsche team was definitely the leading team amongst the Porsches because there was really only the Phantom Global team that was kind of up there. And then definitely the two BMWs were closely right there with the Mercedes. But once it rained, Matt Campbell was just on another planet and just
he was
bolted.
a whole nother zip code. Yeah, he was what 5-6 seconds gone, and it only took him 10 minutes.
Yeah, I mean,
and there's not even traffic. Like,
right,
he got through the traffic, and there was some help from the traffic.
Yeah,
but I mean, I would say a lot of it was because the Porsche. I mean, Matt Campbell was just an animal. I mean, and this guy's checking off the 24 hours of Daytona, now the Bathurst 12 hours. What's next, right? And so he's having a really great start to the year.
Right. I mean, next up for them is going to be Sebring. So.
Oh, there you go. So, speaking of the green Porsche, what were they doing under one of the safety cars? They tried to. You know what I'm talking about. They tried to, I guess, serve a drive-through penalty under the safety car, which.
Yes. Yeah,
what are you doing?
So what threw them off pit sequence was that they got this penalty. I can't remember if it was. Oh no. I think they left the pit lane before the minimum time was up. So they had to come in and serve a drive-through penalty. But when they came in and served it, it was coming off of a. They had a restart, got the penalty, and then they waited one lap to come in and do it. So then when they came around the second time, I think they tried to come in again, but the pits were closed at that point. And it was really kind of odd because it just didn't seem like they were even close to making it. But that's at least what we saw from the broadcast. But yeah, they tried to come in and serve it and claim it was under green, but it wasn't. So they just cycled around to the back, and then they came in again, and at some point there was another safety car soon after. No, so that didn't get them off sequence. Man, how did they get really off sequence? I can't remember where it went, but they did get off sequence. But no, it was the drive time issue, which was separate.
Right.
That was their only thing.
So the Matt Campbell drive time issue.
Yes.
But
That's
what
it threw it off. Yeah.
Right. So I mean, and then they pull off the win.
Yeah. No, and I mean all credit to them. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
I mean, after having served
Ferrari strategists on the pit box, I mean, that's just I don't know what that was, but
yeah. But I mean, after having served the penalty, they were back up in first. So they served it, and then they went from further back in the pack to back up in the front. So all credit to them.
And our homeboy Paul Tracy brought home P2, which I mean, it's a shame because it's. Great result. The second's always great. Just ask me. But also, if he didn't have that, there was some issue when he was going up the hill.
P2 in the invitational class. just for clarification.
Yes.
Yes.
Invitational class,
So-
right now overall.
So Paul Tracy did race in the Bathurst 12 hours, and he was in the invitational class.
So what happened with his car that went up the hill? Because all of a sudden, I guess he got spun around, but then it stalled, or something happened.
I'll be honest, Nate. The invitational cars were having an issue. I think like every other minute that a camera shot over to him. I don't know if it was reliability or if it was just some of the drivers just acting like amateurs and having moments once in a while. But
yeah,
because
he was leading for a little bit. I mean, he was in the leading class, which was cool to see.
I think that invitational class swapped leaders the most. Because
there's only 4 cars, and
1, 2,
and 3, it was
4, 5, 6 cars.
There's so and plus they're like they were mainly the cosmic safety cars.
Yeah, and Paul Tracy's team finished 12 laps behind the winner in second, and they were 11 laps ahead of third. So definitely a reliability race in that class. I'm not well versed on this class, so I don't know what the
what makes it its own class, I guess, because they kind of look like older DTM cars, which kind of cracked me up. The wing was so far back.
I'm not sure on the rules of the class or whatnot, but I'm also not sure what like the how the class usually runs. Like if reliability is a prominent thing, and it's just kind of like whoever can make it the furthest wins kind of deal. You don't necessarily have to have the most perfect race, but you got to have the best one of everyone kind of deal. So
right, which I mean, I would like to see Paul Tracy get the win. I mean, obviously as us North Americans, right? But you win some, you lose some.
Yeah.
So I'd like to see him come back next year. Then again, if he gets invited again, but I guess we'll see.
Yeah. All right. I got a couple of news and notes things just to kind of touch on. Really, the only thing in F1 that I want to even go over is the fact that when we're recording this episode on a Tuesday, so tomorrow being Wednesday is going to be the first day of preseason testing in Bahrain for Formula One. So,
oh yes,
let's see who found a loophole in the rules this year. Ooh, shock! Red Bull's top of the times.
Are you ready? It might be Bull.
Yeah.
Oh, see, I tried on that one. I tried too hard.
Or maybe we just see them do what they did last year, which was I don't think they put a fast lap down in last preseason, and they just kind of did focus on long run pace, which again, that's their bread and butter compared to the rest of the field.
Right.
So preseason doesn't mean anything. I really haven't seen a season where a team comes right out of the box and is dominating preseason and then goes on and an odd team comes out from the winter, rocks up, puts it on the top time of the sheets, and then that carries into the season itself. So everyone's on different plans, run plans, and whatnot. So, I mean, the only one that really comes to mind is Braun GP, but that's a special story in itself.
Yeah, a 1-year wonder.
Yeah,
in F1 history. But I'll tell you, here's what I see happening. Charles Leclerc is going to get the fast lap, and people are going to say Ferrari's back, and they're not. But you heard it here if it happens.
Sure thing.
Yeah. Yes.
If anyone is in the need of more F1 to watch, Drive to Survive drops on Friday on Netflix. So if you want to spend your time doing that, you can do that. that's about it. All that I have for F1. So IndyCar news. It was confirmed, I think, the day or two after we released the last week's episode that David Malukas is going to be out for 6 weeks to recover from his wrist injury or surgery that he had on his hand. So that pretty much confirms that he'll miss the first 2 races. Stinks, but wish you the best of luck, David, and hopefully we'll get to see you out there soon enough.
Yeah. And so when does Zach Veach get the call? Tomorrow, knowing our luck.
I know. Oh, actually, didn't Takuma Sato get a ride confirmed? What was it? Was it RLO?
Yeah, with RLO.
Yes,
yeah.
it was.
So
okay.
He's going to be running the 75 car at Indy.
Okay.
Which, yes, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, Sean's going to laugh. Hey, listen, if he wins it, there you go. So
it'll be good.
He has a chance. He has a really good chance. And I'll tell you what, he's I think one of the more impressive things I've seen him do at Indy is, of course, besides winning it twice, when he was with Rick Ware and Dale Coyne in his qualifying time, he was like coming out of turn 2, like kind of pancake, like not pancake, but like tinker slapped the wall and kept going and was still in the top 9.
Yeah.
You just don't do that. But he just brings that, extra spice and entertainment, that singing pep, if you will, at Indy. So I'm so happy to see Takuma back at Indy.
Yeah.
So definitely some good news there.
Let's see. The IndyCar also released their broadcast schedule of all the start times for each of the race. So if you want to catch that, they've posted that. But did we talk about the season finale?
Oh no, we didn't.
Okay, so
no,
yeah, so
this is really good news.
IndyCar released a statement where they announced that the season finale that was supposed to take place on the streets of Nashville is not going to be taking place on the street course this year, but rather they're going to return and have the season finale at the Nashville Superspeedway. So they'll keep it in Nashville, but we're going to go from the street circuit to the oval for the season finale, which I think I am much more excited about that. But I think that's also stemming from the fact that I'm not a huge street course fan, so I think that's just that, and I wasn't really too keen on on the previous natural races, but again, it's a street circuit, so it's hard to get passing done unless you have the course set up wide enough. But
right, that. But let me tell you, so I think this is a great call by IndyCar. Not only do they what is it? They can't do it because of some. What is there, an event happening that time, or is it just logistics don't make sense? Or?
I don't know if they ever released a reason as to why they were switching, but because the way it sounded from the release, it just seemed like there was no issue with the Tennessee Titans organization and the communication around with everyone that went on to make the event possible. So I don't know what the break point was to make that switch, but yeah.
Well, let me tell you, this is a great call by IndyCar, and I already have my personal thoughts of Mark Miles. This is finally something good, and we don't need street courses. We already have the whole good ideas of F1, which I mean, jeepers, man, and they're even talking about freaking Chicago.
Well,
give me a break. But anyway, so they're heading in the right direction. I think they need to keep this track. I swear to God, if they go back to the Nashville City Course. I'm going to lose it. It's cool. The idea is nice. Oh, we go over a bridge. How cute. But all right, personally, that ship is sailed. I think they're going to come back to this track, and it's going to be a great success because look, IndyCar has raced there before and have had great races. Great races.
Yeah.
Lots of room. It's not narrow, right? Or steeply banked. It's one of those courses that should be returning to the IndyCar schedule, right? Milwaukee, right? That's a new addition. That's great. My own personal thoughts. I think they should go back to New Hampshire. And my whole thing with the Triple Crown, that should be back. I know people have their opinions, but look, this is a step in the right direction, I think. And Nashville Superspeedway, look, there's some drivers in the grid that have raced at Nashville Superspeedway, right? Scott Dixon, for example, right? So, and I think it's just IndyCar going back to their original, I guess you'd call it schedule rounds, if you will. I'm not quite sure how to put it, but this feels like it's a real like IndyCar-esque round.
Well, I mean, it almost. So there's 18 races on the calendar, and 7 of them with the Nashville Superspeedway being announced on the calendar. That puts the oval count at races at 7.
Which fine.
Granted, this doesn't put another oval on the schedule. It actually replaces Texas, because they're not going there anymore. I'm sorry.
There was only one super speedway.
It fills the void of Texas.
Right.
But
because look at it this way, right? You released a new schedule, and there's only one super speedway, that being Indy, which no brainer there.
Mm-hmm.
But I think you have to have at least 2, right? I think it's 3 or more, but I think for bare minimums, right? 2 or more, and I guess depending on how this race goes, right? They might come back, because I know they had the one stop at New Hampshire. It was great racing up until they couldn't figure out with the last 5 laps to go, and then they axed the rest. Again, maybe a poor example, but I'm trying to think of. They have to complete this race. They have to make sure that it's. Maybe I'm going out of proportion here, but I really hope it's a success, and I want it to come back because the IndyCar's gone here before, and it's had great races, great finishes, and it's it's kind of like there's a missing void, right? Because they used to go to Chicagoland and have had tremendously close finishes, even 3-wide finishes for that matter. And like you said, it's kind of the missing void of Texas. And I've been seeing some reels on Instagram with like the the finish with at Texas with Graham Rahal, James Hinchcliffe, Tony Kanaan, and Simon Pagino, where they were like four wide at one point. I mean, just please take me back. Those are just some great races. Yeah, and that's just IndyCar's getting that nice mojo back, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and yeah, if you're gonna go on the trend of what was it last year or the year before of Newgarden being the king of ovals.
Yeah, last year just sweeping everything except one race.
Well, so the 6 of the last 8 races are ovals. So if anyone's gonna have a comeback at the end of the year, if the first
and Jay knew.
Yeah, if the first few don't go so well, yeah. Oh shoot, I'm sorry. There's 18 races, but one of them is that $1 million race, so that's not part of the championship. So there's 17
Yeah.
races.
17.
Yeah. Okay.
We'll see how that goes, huh? I mean,
Right.
Whether that fails or not, I think they're still going to keep it because let's exclude everybody, right? But, jeez.
Where is it? I want to make sure I get this right. All right. So next year, keeping in the IndyCar series, Chip Ganassi announced the main sponsor for Alex Blow's car, which is going to be DHL.
Did you see the paint scheme?
I did.
It's really nice.
It looks just about similar as what Grosjean ran and what Ryan Hunter-Reay ran. In my eyes, like just from quick glance, like that's what it is. It's definitely an evolution on top of what they've run in the past, but yeah, it looks good.
So that'll be a car running up the front pretty often, I would say.
Right. Keeping with Palou, he is going to be making his 24 Hours of Le Mans debut with Chip Ganassi in the Cadillac GTP car. So that will be very cool to see him in that race as well and have a shot to get the 24 Hours of Le Mans win. And then from a segue of Le Mans, the entry list for this year's Le Mans race has been revealed, and there is 52 cars on this list. I'm sorry, 62 cars on this list. There is going to be 3 classes: hypercars, LMP2s, and GT3s. There is going to be 23 GT3s, 16 LMP2s, and 23 hypercars. So
that's insane. The top class.
Yeah,
that's almost unheard of lately.
Yeah,
but a couple of years ago, right? I mean,
right. I mean, this is really going to be awesome to watch, and I'm all for it. I'm trying to. I got to see where I put it, but I had the number of how many unique manufacturers there are, and it's either like 15 or 19, something like that. But I am. This is easily my favorite race of the year, and I'm so glad that the top class has grown to this size that it is, because we're gonna have Assetto Frascini this year as well, and then we're also gonna have if Lamborghini isn't making it, it's one other manufacturer I think BMW is gonna finally be in it this year. Where is this account? There's this one account called Only Endurance on Instagram, and they are by far one of my favorite accounts right now regarding all sports car news.
Right.
Let's see.
Oh, and then I also got the picture of the AF Corsa card that you sent me earlier today.
Yes.
That's a nice looking paint scheme.
Yes. So the Ferrari is going to enter 3 cars in their hypercar class, and the third one is going to be the 83 car, and run by AF Corsa, and they inverted the color scheme, so it's primarily yellow with red bands on it. Which it's not Ferrari red, but it's still keeping within the Ferrari badge color scheme. So it'll be nice to see out there, and you can definitely pick it apart. Aside from the yellow Cadillac. But yeah, I mean, it's 15 different manufacturers that are going to be spread across the field. So I mean, in the hypercar class alone, there's Cadillac, Porsche, Toyota, Sara Fascini, which is the Italian boutique brand. BMW, Lamborghini is going to have 2 cars. Alpine is going to be running 2 cars this year. Ferrari, Peugeot. I'm really looking forward to this year.
So, I mean, this year, I think it's going to be something special this year for the 24 Hours of Le Mans, right? Because, I mean, there's just so many manufacturers that can win it this year. That's the thing. Most of them can win it. I would say best bet, Toyota, just, hence their time in WEC. But it's also, what have teams found out from the year prior? I really don't see Lamborghini being all that up the front. They might run into a reliability issue. I mean, what are they? They're doing the 12 hours of Sebring, right? So
yes, yeah.
So they'll find information out there and kind of bank off of what they find there, I guess.
Yeah,
bring it to Le Mans.
The tires are slightly different between the 2 series. And there's a slight difference in BOP between the cars, between the 2 series of all the cars. But sure enough, like Sebring is a great testing grounds, and WC also has their Prologue coming up as well, and then their season will kick off shortly too. So, but in the meantime, coming up this weekend is F1 preseason testing, and we'll get into the season opener for that before we even get to Sebring itself.
Yeah, so exciting stuff for Le Mans.
Right.
So,
yeah, and oh no, hold on, I'm sorry. The WEC Prologue, I think, is this weekend.
Oh,
which then
what, Bahrain?
Qatar.
Oh, Qatar.
Yes, and then the opening round for WEC is the week after, which is the same. Oh, all right. F1 and WEC open up at the same weekend.
Nice.
And then
very, very nice.
And then IndyCar has their season opener the following weekend. All right, so we're oh wow, and hold on.
But wait, there's more.
The Supercars is kicking off their season at Bathurst for the
Bathurst 500.
500 is this weekend. Oh, all right, yeah, we're back in we're back in racing season. Okay.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we're back. Well, Daytona 500 kind of does that, right?
Yeah,
but
no, that's a good point. Yeah.
So.
All right, so plenty of
cool stuff. Stuff coming up.
All right, so this weekend is the Bathurst 500 for Supercars. WEC has their preseason testing this weekend. F1 testing is today. By the time this podcast comes out, yeah. So lots to talk about next week for sure. So with that,
good night.
Thank you guys for listening to the Red Mist Podcast, hosted by Christian Abbott, Sean Abbott, and Nathan Lavender. It's produced by Christian Abbott, and music is by Alex Wart and Harrison Tate.